Now over 60 years, this is my home. And as a student of Nalendra tradition, I realize ancient Indian knowledge about mind. And these things I feel very relevant to this world. Firstly, this country itself, because modern education introduced by British. So in the West, no also the tradition, training of our mind. So now, Indian, more and more Indian are really showing interest. So this is very, very encouraging. Yes.
So Sasanka will introduce, he is a sociologist and also edits a journal on society and culture in South Asia. So our interview with you will probably be published in that journal. Would you like to?
So, thank you for meeting us, Your Holiness. So, couple of things that we are trying to look at this whole thing as not as individual citizens like Indian or Sri Lankan or whatever, but as people of the world, right?
Right.
And
that's very right.
Yeah, because that nationality doesn't always help. And so it is in this context that some of these questions we have. The first is...
I always say, believe 7 billion human beings, the way born, same.
Precisely.
The way to die, same.
Precisely, yeah.
But we too much emphasis different nationality,
Precisely.
different
religion.
culture, and including different religion.
Exactly.
It is really awful, unthinkable. We use, due to different religious faith, killing. Unthinkable. And Muslim country, Shia and Sunni.
Yeah.
Unthinkable.
Division seem to have become the more...
So the... And also the Burma.
Oh, that's right.
Buddhist.
Not only Burma, Sri Lankans are doing the same thing.
Very sad, very sad. So we must do something to change these things. Only if we stress we are same human being. There's 7 billion human beings on this planet, all are same. So one of my belief and my effort is to promote oneness of 7 billion human beings, except these Iran. Iran American president is very much sort of afraid of Iranian.
Yes, very
I think very much related with, again, Sunni and Shia. Iran, Shia. Saudi Arabia, Sunni. Very sad. Baseless.
Yes.
Okay.
So let me ask you this first question. Do you think Buddhist ideas, concepts and analytical processes often difficult for ordinary people to understand? You know, the philosophy of Buddhism, why do people are more interested in rituals rather than the core ideas of Buddhism? You know, I come from a Buddhist background too, but...
I think these days I sort of expressing in kindergarten level, you see, there is some also education about hygiene of physical. So similarly, from kindergarten level, we should include hygiene of emotion. I think children, there's nothing, I mean, here, hygiene of emotion, nothing to do with religion. Children, you see, loves smile. And you see, give some sweet. The children loves. Well, person, you see, the anger, no smile, nothing. So, children, I think the basic human nature is very fresh. They don't care what is different religious belief, what different nationality. Children, they play together. Many years ago, I have one opportunity to visit Kasa,
Pestology. Pestology village.
Pestology. Oh, the same village. Some some Jews, one group, Jews, beside that, some Palestine, play together. So young age, not much differences. Now that we should utilize people, young children, we are same human being. And in order to healthy person, the hygiene of emotion is something very relevant. So in any way,
But do you think the Buddhist ideas and concepts are for ordinary people not easy to grasp? Or do you think it is...
I think not only Buddhism, but also Christianity or Islam, when you say God, difficult to explain. So, without touching any religion, including Buddhism, you can take in the Indian tradition, mainly religious tradition, there's a lot of explanation about psychology, these things. But we should consider these are academic subject, not religious subject.
So you're saying that the analytical parts of Buddhism should be considered...
The scientists also analytical meditation, they practice. Here the difference is, one I think unique thing, Buddha himself, you see, express, all my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. That's very scientific.
Yes. That's in the Kalama Sutra, no? In the Kalama Sutra, that is what the Buddha says. Yeah.
So, many Nalendra master, they rejected some Buddha's own teaching. Some cases, they couldn't hold it immediately.
No, Zagi.
좀 전에 얘기 풍부한 쿠르쿠어본 강사코스 시대 풍부의 대신도 강사시 예외에서 숨.
The Buddha, when one teaching he says the five aggregates are psychophysical aggregates are like what is to be used, and the person is like an agent. So in that teaching he speaks of a person somewhat separate from the psychophysical aggregates.
So some sort of idea, Atma, beside this body.
Right.
So Buddha taught, see, according the particular audience. So therefore, in culture, so someone came in. So like Nagarjuna and many Indian scholars make distinction. This Buddha's teaching we can accept literally. because no sort of contradiction with reason. This Buddha's teaching we cannot accept literally because it goes against the reason. So Nalina tradition emphasis more important reason rather than faith. So,
see, in a way, this next question from Miss Anoli, who's an artist, has to do with something that is related to this. She is asking, how would you explain the concept of time in Buddhism? Whether there is an idea of time in Buddhism.
oh yes.
So,
그래, 시작을 가시면
That's true.
가. 지라마에 또 제주를 들고 지프게 따서 많이 붙지. According Buddha Dharma, Buddhist school of thought,
yeah.
mainly Vibhashik school of thought, Sotantik school of thought, and then Chittamantra school of thought, then Madhyamika school of thought. So there are some sort of different concept. So according Vibhashik, time is something, I think something objectively exists.
Tangible.
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 Tangible. Material.
너도 왜 그래?
그건 tangible 있으면 두디베 디마시 지진도에 따서 랑센제도 두 가서 두 랑센레라 두 랑센미디시
가.
두디 디미디시 공도제 랑센레라
So Sotantik also more or less time is because of independently exist.
So it has an objective reality.
Oh yes.
Yes.
That's what it is.
In two schools, and in the other two schools,
Then Chitta Mantra 두 가셔. 선자배
랑센이去제주下过的基本的如今的去当地生长的大那些广大的去了广大是你下一多那个所谓广大记得感谢广大是你下对的北京生长的老黑的什么
가.
对过去生长的基本的小的给予什么那对你的基本精神
So then Madhyamika, and particularly Prasangika. Then, firstly, the past, future, what's it? Because of the concept of past, future depend on present.
That's right. Yes.
Present also, if we investigate, half
gone.
past, half not yet come. So, it's very difficult to find present.
Exactly.
Without a present,
Yeah.
then past and future,
Yeah.
difficult.
Right.
So these, if we analyze,
Yeah.
we cannot find
Time.
solid or something objectively exist. Just a mere designation.
Just mere
Designation.
only the
Designated.
labeling. That, yeah.
저는 동물원에 따라서 세다지 약속을 해.
All phenomena are merely imputed by the mind.
Right.
So there is no sense of time. There is no time.
For time, I mean, of course we accept time. But
Chronological.
if we analyze time, difficult. Similarly, we accept Buddha himself. But if we analyze where is Buddha, nothing. 풍불해션, 대라템이, tertem이, 뒤시고 풍된미, 뒤시고 남매지 그짜기 들으면 누가?
So the Buddha itself is not the aggregates, he's not other than the aggregates, he doesn't possess the aggregates are not possessed by him. So then which one, what is the Buddha? When you analyze, at the end of analysis, even the Buddha is not able to.
So it's concept. just a concept which is almost difficult to measure.
Did it?
Yeah.
어, 어머 주고야 한다. 가사. 뭐 가래 거대 그냥 가다도 들이 가다. 대남식대 남자 딩 거기 가사.
新的染一个的基因，南京的是吧？
맞다. 제대로 봐. 한테 찍디. 대남식대사가 남스 자스데.
你讲的对，新的染一个的新移民，你那那边那他这个移民基因东西，你那新的南京西边哪里有关系？
그래 왜?
南京的是。
맞다. 본본 넘버를 사실은 중에. 이 말이. 이 수비 돈데 대남식대 남자시베 남들이 뭐인식. 대래 현도 주고 직전 작업관에 이거 있어도 들이. 제가시니 가야 그게 직도 타대 두서 자연은 전에 요마리스. 산다. 워낙 팬은 되게지 요알보다 가려서는 대래 현도 주고 직전 작업관에 이거 있어. 이제는 자죠. 변산지 준대인데 다른 사람은 이해해요. 말이 이제는 연구소 연대 군대 산지 자죠. 다른 시장 차샤네. 다 가다지. 내가 코와다 양대사로 저 가도 가이네. 그 마다 맞아병 안에 샤워마도 이뭐 컨디션에서 다시 잖아. 니야천. 저든지 인도 최선제 모니지 모주를 했어. 랑생이 모주를 모니지 모주를 했어. 또왜 땅섬했어. 다 돈디 몸을 주사들이 아니 대진적으로 좀 먹고 된다 동반이도 시 된다 때내다고 되니 보면 그것이 땡주 모임 청거이 모임 지도 모임 청거이 모임 없어 최탐지 때내 딱서 말이 요마스 가야
Chandrakirti in the Madhyamika Avatara, he says things like the whole, parts, attachment, definitions, etc. When you analyze them the way you analyze in the text, it speaks of a sevenfold analysis of a chariot. They are not findable at the end of analysis. And so even though they are not findable through analysis, they still function in the world and they perform functions.
Yeah.
So when you say how these functions exist, how do they exist, then it says even though they're not findable through mere conventions, through mere
Conventional reality.
conventional labeling, they exist. So even like the Buddha, when you look for the Buddha, even though they perform function and they have certain actions, when you look for an essence at the end of an analysis, you find nothing that can remain as an objective remainder at the end of this analysis. So Nagarjuna in the Mula Madhyamika Karika, in short, in 2 shlokas, he says, that which is interdependent or is dependently arisen is the nature of emptiness. And because it relies on something else, it is known as the middle path. So, as Zorinus was saying, when you look for an essence, whatever it might be, at the end of an analysis, because it's not findable, you say that it is mere conventional, it is conventionally labeled.
So, 그렇지. 참에 육유지 표고 왔어. 죄송합니다.
I was difficult to accept this principle. Everything is only designate and nothing exists on the basis. So then we can designate a real snake as snake, but we cannot designate a root as snake, and which is something which need a kind of basis on which you are designating. So this is the Sutantik Madhyamik position, and I was difficult to understand the Prasangic position of the Madhyamika. The basis has nothing to do, and nothing exists from the side of
The object.
the object.
It is imputed.
Yes, only input. Then
Object.
everything is input, then why not we can import a rope as a snake, and it doesn't work as a snake. This was my argument. So this is my shortcoming. I was always difficult to understand
No.
the Prasangik position.
But how would he explain that, his own question?
So
He's
he
holding-
explained according to the Nagarjuna tradition.
Nagarjuna.
I'm trying to remember. need a
Oh.
lot of effort.
뭐 런규베 지선낭식 뭐였으니까 책도 그네고
어머니
어머니 지선낭식 뭐였지 그 가서 그게 난게 소화 있는 자 치 숙소 있는 자그 되지만이 없이 나는 것도 나와도 중요해 지선낭식 뭐였지 어다 내가 잡아면 좋았어 제니까 아니 양다 군조다 가서 양다 군조다 가서 가 군조 때문에 양로 니치야 이제 이거로 그래서 안 되기 시작이 타녀도야랑 제 미싱에기 공업에 다들 나도 각제 근데 저 전쟁만에 여기 지선나시 모여셨을 때 내가 각제 능주를 했어 저도 각제 때문에 원시로 낭세다 미나세지
So the Swatantrika school, they say whether it be internal phenomena or external phenomena such as sensations or matter, when it appears as self-sufficient, as objectively real. And they assert that because it appears as self-sufficient or objectively real, it is not an object of analysis, it is to be left as it is. Whereas when you come to the Prasangika school, this appearance of objective reality, whether it be internal or external, itself is the object of negation. So the object of negation changes according to these two schools.
So I am follower or student of Nagarjuna and particularly Buddhapalita and Chandrakirti. So I found very similar quantum physics, nothing exists as appears. So entirely depend on observer. Then when question come, where is observer? The quantum physics, no answer. Not yet developed investigation. But then when I have some discussion with quantum physicists, it seems we know much better. The quantum physics is wonderful. It's just a beginning. Eventually, they should investigate where is observer. Then, so there are some confusion. But quantum physics, you see, it is very, very useful. There is big differences, appearances in reality. As far as the external thing. External thing, so long observer there, then external thing there. When no longer observer, then questionable whether there is object still exists or not. So one time, one great Indian Rajaramana,
Quantum physicist.
quantum physicist. You see, he once told me, quantum physics in the West, something new. But this country, in India, over 2,000 years, already developed that concept, quantum physics. So he recite some sentences of the Nagarjuna's Madhyamika Mulakarika. It's very true, very right.
So now we move to something which is of great interest to you, the field of education.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you this question on how can we bring about a spiritual mind through education. Here I am not referring to your perspective on the recent initiative of social emotional learning, which is one perspective, but I'm talking about which is more looking at the emotional and the bringing the balance But here, what I'm asking you is, how can we bring about a deeply spiritual mind, not a religious mind, but a spiritual mind
In education.
in
Oh.
education, through education,
You mean spiritual without belief,
without belief.
without religious belief.
Without a particular religious belief, but open
Universe,
to ideas.
yeah, open.
Can you say the human basic nature, more compassion, that is spiritual? I don't think. Animal mother is very much sort of take concern about their
Offspring.
Child.
their
children.
child. And child also is totally relying their life on their mother. So long, they say they not become the independence. They totally rely on their mother. So there's one emotion. Do you say that emotion is spiritual? Do you say that is spiritual?
You tell me.
He's asking you.
I think it's spiritual. This very word, I think more closer to some relation with religion.
But without belief.
Yes, without belief.
Yeah. Without any faith.
Oh. So India's the 1,000-year-old concept of secular is very relevant to today's world. 7 billion human beings become more religious-minded, impossible. According to some report, out of 7 billion, 1 billion non-believer. Then among the 6 billion, the different belief. So sometimes these belief useful, generally I think should be useful. All major world tradition, different philosophy. Some say there's God, creator, some say no God. But all carry same message of love, karuna, and forgiveness, and I think self-discipline. All religion, you see, teach us these things. So all carry the same message of love, but then use different philosophy. Then, now today, among the believer, their belief, their faith, becoming more superficial. The Judeo-Christian tradition, Muslim, all believe creator. So when they sort of face some difficulties, by nature they express God, God, oh God, oh God. So, different philosophy, different religion, different philosophy, but all carry same message. But many of these believers also they, unfortunately, that belief itself now making division and fighting, killing. So now I emphasize it's better not talking about God, not talking about next life. Simply the 7 billion human beings from childhood, everyone want happy life. Do not want problem, do not want suffering. On that way, most of the problem, suffering, is destructive emotion. So we have to make distinction. Emotion which create problem, that's destructive emotion. Firstly, disturb our own peace of mind. That's destructive emotion. Those emotion which brings inner peace, then also you should start helping, serving other. These kind of emotion is positive. So, secular, no, kasa. Secular way, I think we can promote these value.
Universal.
Not these, then psychology, these things, the material, we use religious text, but the subject itself, we should consider academic subject, how to build healthy mind, and through that way, healthy body, then healthy world. If we say these things related with religion, then what is religion? More complicated. Sometimes I feel we 7 million human beings becoming more peaceful without religion.
So
The one example, Judo-Christian believer, that's Western nations are basically Judo-Christian believer. So they believe God as a creator, that means as our Father. The entire human being are children of one Father, God. If we truly believe that, if we sincerely also acting according to that belief, then no possibility to kill each other. All are children of same Father. But those Western nations, First World War, Second World War, and they produce a lot of weapons to kill, including nuclear weapon, while they say God, God, God. Contradiction. So sometimes I feel, you see, Shia, for example, the Muslim, one Shia people pray to God, and the Sunni people pray to God. Maybe God confused. Now my blessing should go this side or this side.
okay,
So best thing is a secular way.
non-religious.
And you see the use of common sense.
Truly radical. You're truly radical. You want to break away from all conventional understandings of bringing the spiritual world into education. You know, that it should be a you refer to it as universal ethics. Yeah. So that it's not.
I feel better based on scientific sort of finding. Then no problem about sort of different religious tradition.
Yeah. Okay, our next question is about compassion from Professor Sabyasachi.
His Holiness, I try and practice some of the teachings that you have told us now in real life. I try and practice some of these ideas in real life, and I want to share with you an experience and ask questions from that. I was trying to prevent a mob lynching of a young boy.
Karsa.
Mob lynching.
Correct.
Mimazu rukene ni kuranzu di
Seven.
nechi. Ketan ni seven.
Correct.
It is
Di kuranzu ni never.
I was trying to save a young boy
who was
from
being
a mob
attacked.
lynching group. And I was
What's the reason?
he did a mistake by driving a car in a colony which was very fast.
Oh, caste system.
No car,
Motor car.
motor car.
Motorcycle.
He was driving very fast inside
Yes.
in the residential area.
Yes.
Very fast driving.
So the people in the residence pulled him out and started to kick him and beat him and box him. So I and my wife reached there to stop him, and we used the word compassion.
Yes.
He's done no mistake, nobody has been killed, so please don't mob lynch him. And I found they got very angry with me. The moment I used the word compassion, it angered them and they started to use language of hate with me. So I concluded thinking on this that people want to receive compassion, but when they have to give compassion, it's very difficult. So two questions. So I have two questions from this.
Yes, yes.
First, what is the nature of studentship of compassion? It is a huge problem. It can't be done in one lifetime.
How do we learn about compassion?
Compassion.
How do we learn to be compassionate?
It is a very difficult task.
From
Sec-
this story we can...
Second question is, Holiness, is that is it possible to have rebirth in one biological lifetime in order to learn compassion?
Karsa.
What does that
Rebirth
mean?
means you realize, I guess.
Can I be reborn again and again in one biological lifetime if I have to learn compassion here and now?
I think scientific sort of way, views. I think basically we are social animal. In order to survive, one individual, no matter how powerful, how rich, without the community, that person impossible to survive. Because we are social animal. And we are very much appreciate since our birth, affection. So I think in hospital, when doctor come, showing smile, or nurse come showing smile, the patient, including myself, then feel much easier, much because of the ease. Ease, my way. No? The doctor come. Remember that. Maybe good profession, but he almost is treating you like a machine. So these are all common sense. So since we are social animal, so loving kindness each other is the key factor. We are not talking about next life, or not talking about God or Buddha. Common sense. I think children, without any sort of complicated explanation, the children love smile. I feel that.
But when others don't want that, as he's explained, they use the language of hatred. When you may be compassionate, I may be compassionate, but the other responds with hatred. How do we bridge that?
I think that's basically our society, materialistic society. Because our education very much oriented about material value. So the whole society, materialistic life, materialistic culture. So not much pay attention about inner value because of our education. So I think change on the society from the beginning. Child, they don't care nationality, religious faith. They care loving kindness. So now that in education, you see, should lesson or because of the subject to further increase or because of to keep these basic value, and then children getting older, you see, we can use scientific research finding and their own daily experiences. So that's the secular way. And through that way, eventually, I think generation who come from that kind of education, not only material value, but also inner value, strictly the secular way, nothing to do with religion. Religion is a one person who believes these deeper value, then religion can use further increase. But basically, without any religion, just simply human being, social animal, they are individual, this existence much based on the community. So now basically we are social animal. So one individual's, you see, happy life depend on the family. The family, happy family depend on the community. Now in the sense of community, now today's world, Eastern world depend on West, Western world similarly, so South and North. So that's because of the technology, because of population, because of communication. Now whole 7 billion human beings are one community. Like that. So therefore, I think through education, I feel now when we see television in Africa, people, some area starvation, some area too much sort of conflict. When we see that, they are suffering no harm outside, but as a human being, they are human brothers, sisters. So you naturally have some kind of serious concern and sometimes crying. Like in Burma, some Buddhist monk, they are quite fat, and then you see they don't care about those Muslims whose building burned and beat like that. So only they name Muslim, Buddhist. Totally wrong. We must emphasize we are same human being. We same community. We have to live side by side. Their future depends on us. Our future depends on them. So the religion sometimes too much emphasis the concept of we and they. That's a source of problem. We must sort of make effort to promote big we, 7 million human beings, we, not they and or we, small group, we and they, and then killing, hatred. I think the simple sort of reasoning. 1,000 years, we very much sort of based on concept of we and they. World, still a lot of problem. And 20th century, saya kazari, misati.
100 million.
100 million.
Oh, the previous century, 100 million human beings killed. Now, we should feel, now enough. Now this 21st century should be more peaceful century. The 20th century, a lot of people killed, but failed to bring peaceful society. So I think use common sense, not relying on religion. Do you think I am Buddhist or non-Buddhist?
I think you're Buddhist, right?
I think Buddha himself, if Buddha come here these days, I think he may emphasize on that level. and all, oh, I think all great masters really think about humanity. And Buddhism, entire sentient being, mother sentient being.
Okay. Next question is by Professor Ramin about interfaith dialogue, and which is part of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Why it is not there in the Islamic tradition? He would like to pose it himself.
Yes, thank you, Your Holiness. I'm very happy to be back here, this time with my friends and colleagues. And in the continuity of what you were talking about, my question is, in this Tibetan Buddhist dynamic of interfaith dialogue and compassionate reconciliation, could it be well perceived and practiced by other cultures, especially Muslim cultures, for example, today?
Especially
Muslim cultures. For example, in Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, or do we need to have go back to teachings of Buddha and Buddhism to learn more about this compassionate reconciliation?
No, I think not necessarily. I think religion makes differences. Like Burmese, these are Buddhist. But mainly, I feel we should use common sense. Common sense. And as far as Muslim is concerned, in this country, I never heard complaint from Shia and Sunni each other. Never heard. And India, basically, all major religious traditions live together. I think, and I always was telling the Parsi, small community, Zorazodin, their religion. In Bombay, big city, millions of Muslim, millions of Christian and Hindus, about less than 100,000 Parsis. No fear. That's India. Religious harmony, religious freedom there. And recently, when I was in Ladakhi Muslim, they also have very sort of close feeling with Buddhist. And among the Shia and the Sunni Ladakh, no problem. So I suggest to them, you should organize national level, India, in Delhi, some meeting national level from Sunni, Shia. I also made some donation. And then when they organized that meeting, I went there. So, at that time, I really feel, and then some some Iranian also you see there, and then some others are Muslims. Beautiful. We are same human being, no problem. And we all, it's both sides, they say, same Allah and same Quran. So 5 times prayer, same. No reason fight. Basically, all major religious traditions carry one message of love, brotherhood, sisterhood. And then particularly is the Shia and the Sunni. You see, no basis to make distinction. So very successful, very happy sort of meeting, gathering in Delhi. So I told them, here in India, Sunni and share. You see, I never heard complaint. So that practice now, you should not sort of content. You preserve these. Now time come, should make effort to show other Muslim brothers, sisters, and for example, Afghanistan and Syria, in this area. So they, I feel a few days, delay.
Immediate,
Oh.
2 days.
2 days of meeting, very good. So my hope is, you see, this is the national level. Gradually, if possible, international level. So we need effort, constant effort. One effort may not show success, but the principle is something worthwhile. So effort and fail, again effort, fail, again effort.